ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ ප්‍රථම වරට SLT 4G වෙතින් දැන් Pure TV නරඹන්න. ඉදිරියටම ගෙන යන SLT 4G.
ලෙන්ගතුකම වැඩි කරගන්න ලව්ජු රුපියල් 50ට අඩු කළා.
මාමේ එන්න අපිට ඒක
Tonight, key move. Operation of rice mills made an essential service, with maximum retail prices also set for several varieties. Growing hope. Sri Lanka's COVID-19 recovery rate soars to over 28% as 5 more patients discharged. In the hour of need, Jack Ma donates 20,000 COVID-19 test kits, with more on the way. In whichever way possible, further measures introduced to preserve the foreign currency reserve position of Sri Lanka. All that and much more coming up on First at 9, this Friday the 10th of April 2020.
SMS කර රුපියල් මිලියන 3ක මුල්තැන්ගේ උපකරණ දිනාගෙන අවුරුද්දෙම කුස්සිය ටයිම් සේව් කරගන්න.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Dhamkek Naika. Now, as Sri Lanka battles to contain the spread of COVID-19 with the country also in a state of lockdown, the services of the owners of all rice mills have been declared an essential service. The President's Media Division said that the move was taken since the provision of essential foods and rice production, storage and distribution is imperative to ensure the food security under the COVID-19 quarantine process. Accordingly, rice mill owners of the country must produce rice in their respective areas using paddy stocks in their possession. Under the instructions of the President, Secretary to the President Dr. P.B. Jayasundara has informed the acting IGP, the Director General of Health Services, the Commissioner General of Food and the Chairman of the Consumer Affairs Authority to make sure that, or more like take measures to enabling small-scale rice mill owners to distribute rice stocks within their respective divisional secretariat divisions. The President's Media Division added that medium-scale owners must be enabled to distribute rice stocks within the district and large-scale owners to distribute in the entire country. Now, it went on to say that a harvest of around 3 million metric tons of paddy has been reaped by now, and the quantity of rice that can be produced is equivalent to 2/3 of that amount. Accordingly, all relevant parties have been told that increasing rice prices or hampering the supply of rice pose a major impediment to the effective implementation of quarantine activities. Now, in the meantime, the Consumer Affairs Authority says that maximum retail prices have been imposed on several varieties of rice with effect from today. Accordingly, a maximum retail price of 125 rupees is imposed on a kilogram of kiri samba. Meanwhile, the maximum retail price of a kilogram of samba rice for both red and white varieties is 90 rupees. As for nadu, the maximum retail price is 90 rupees per kilogram, while both red and white varieties of raw rice can be retailed at a maximum price of 85 rupees per kilogram. Now, in other developments, Sri Lanka recorded 0 COVID-19 patients during the course of the day, with 5 more people making full recoveries, sending the country's number of recoveries past the landmark half-century. As things stand, a total of 54 COVID-19 patients have recovered from the deadly virus, which puts the country's recovery percentage at 28.4%, which is 5 times that of the world's largest economy, the United States. In the meantime, police and health authorities continue to track down individuals who continue to evade quarantine processes after being exposed to COVID-19 patients.
Commander of the Navy Vice Admiral P.L. De Silva says that steps have been taken to strengthen the safety of Sri Lanka's maritime boundaries following the increase of COVID-19 infections in India. He added that the Navy has received the assistance of the Sri Lanka Air Force as well in this endeavour. Meanwhile, health authorities took measures to cremate the remains of a person who died while being treated at the Karapitiya hospital in accordance with the international quarantine regulations. His final rites were performed at the crematorium at the Dadella cemetery. The son of the deceased was a recent arrival from South Korea and had contracted COVID-19. Not being aware of his infection, the son had spent 2 days at the Karapitiya Teaching Hospital taking care of his father. However, according to the investigation conducted, the deceased had not been infected with COVID-19. Meanwhile, a resident of Katupota in Kurunagala had admitted himself to the Kurunagala Teaching Hospital yesterday, who had exhibited symptoms of COVID-19. Accordingly, he was transferred to the hospital's special unit designated for suspected COVID-19 patients. The hospital director said that the emergency treatment unit in which the patient in question was initially treated was disinfected and reopened after being temporarily shut. 39 members of the hospital staff who came into contact with the relevant doctors have also been removed from duty. Later, however, the results of the patient's phlegm samples returned, with him being COVID-19 negative. Meanwhile, 65 people who took cover in Al Qasim city and Palavia in Putlam has been directed to the quarantine facility in Punani as they came into contact with a COVID-19 infected residing at a housing complex at the Al Qasim city. Information was uncovered that they had been to a funeral in Tharapuram of Mana along with the COVID-19 infected person. 2 residences in Tharapuram were checked by health authorities today for having direct contact with the infected person. Their houses were also subjected to disinfection. In Malimada of Mathura, 7 people including a member of the clergy was directed to a quarantine facility by health authorities today after having arrived from Anuradhapura without a curfew permit. The vehicle they arrived in and a 3-wheeler which was parked at the house were also seized by police. Elsewhere, the 19th section of the Akkarepattu was isolated with the detection of a COVID-19 patient. 320 families residing in the area were made to self-quarantine by health authorities. Members of 8 families, along with the driver and his assistant who gave transportation to the COVID-19 patient from Akkarepattu, were directed to the quarantine facility in Damminna for coming into contact with the infected. Meanwhile, measures were taken to quarantine a person who concealed that he is an arrival from Indonesia after taking part in a religious ceremony. The resident of Haliala was directed to the quarantine facility in Diatalava along with his wife. In the meantime, the wife of the gem businessman from Ratnapura returned home today after making a complete recovery from the virus. She was also given police protection. Her husband, mother-in-law and the 2 children continue to receive treatment for COVID-19. Meanwhile, 5 more COVID-19 patients were discharged from hospitals today, sending Sri Lanka's number of recoveries past the landmark 50. As things stand, 54 patients have made full recoveries, boosting the country's rate of recovery to 28.4. With no fresh cases being reported during the day, Sri Lanka's total number of cases stand at 190. From that figure, 134 are active cases. In addition, 224 people are currently under medical observation with symptoms of COVID-19.
කොරෝනා වෛරසය පැතිරීම වළක්වන්න සබන් යොදා දෑත් සෝදන්න.
In the meantime, the founder of Alibaba, Jack Ma, has donated 20,000 COVID-19 test kits to the island, with a consignment expected to reach the country tonight. In another positive development, the COVID-19 Healthcare and Social Security Fund established by President Gotabaya Rajapaksa saw the fund's balance soar past 500 million rupees, with various organizations and persons stepping forward to make generous contributions.
The COVID-19 Healthcare and Social Security Fund established by President Gotabaya Rajapaksa saw the fund's balance rise to 585 million rupees last evening. The President's media division said that the funding was received from several ministries, government institutions, private organizations, cricketers as well as members of the public. People can make donations to the fund via the special account set up at the Bank of Ceylon, bearing account number 857373773. In the meanwhile, officials of the Consumer Affairs Authority raided a milk powder stall in Petta that had withheld their stocks from sale. In another development, public health inspectors of Homagama discovered a 3,000 kilogram stock onions and potatoes unfit for human consumption from a warehouse of a businessman in Ovitagama of Meegoda yesterday. Meanwhile, protests were worked off by the people in the Hatton estate and those in the area of Mellagama in Madagama today. They claim that the 5,000 rupee grant given by the government to the low-income families and for those who lost their jobs due to the spread of COVID-19 is lacking an effective distribution mechanism. In the meantime, a consignment of 20,000 COVID-19 test kits donated by the founder of the online store Alibaba, Jack Ma, is expected to arrive in the country tonight. The Chinese embassy in Sri Lanka announced that another 20,000 COVID-19 test kits sent on behalf of the Chinese government will arrive in the country next week. In Ratnapura, a protective chamber built to detect patients suspected to have developed symptoms similar to that of COVID-19 was inspected by doctors today. The invention was donated to the Ratnapura hospital by the Latex Lanka International Private Limited. Elsewhere, 25 beds were donated to the new ward constructed to treat COVID-19 patients at the Kandy National Hospital by the old boys of the Dharmaraja College Kandy, Sinhala Trade Front of Kandy, along with a few other donors. Despite several economic centres in the island being closed as precautionary measures, the Manning market continued to function as usual. Amongst essential services named by the government, pharmacies remained open today during the curfew to the general public. Meanwhile, people in the area of Panadura alleged that the Samurdhi officers in charge of the area had distributed rice, which had passed its expiry date by around 3 months.
නිෂ්පාදිත දිනය කවදත් අලුත් වටවල තේ අරගන්න.
වටවල තේ ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ තේ එක.
Now, police today warned that those promoting the use and production of liquor and cigarettes will be taken to book. The warning comes as various posts circulating on social media on how to make liquor at home in a backdrop where all liquor sales are banned by the government as it attempts to arrest the spread of COVID-19. Furthermore, island-wide raids were also conducted in order to deter people from violating the curfew.
Numerous raids and inspections are conducted island-wide in order to nab people violating the curfew and those misusing curfew permits. With that being the case, Mihintale police raided an illegal liquor distillery in the area of Vellaragama Vevaldigiliya in Mihintale and seized 250 litres of Goda while arresting one suspect. Elsewhere, officers of the Department of Excise in Alpiti arrested 4 suspects from the area of Polatu Palata for being in possession of illicit liquor. Meanwhile, excise officers of Gaul used an undercover operative to unravel the illegal sale of foreign liquor by a hotel in the area of Dalavella. 15 bottles of foreign liquor were seized, while our correspondent said that the hotel had sold the liquor at exorbitant prices. He said that a bottle with a market value of 75,000 had been sold for 100,000 rupees. Police officers of the anti-corruption unit in Negombo meanwhile arrested 2 suspects being in possession of heroin as they had travelled using a 3-wheeler violating the curfew. The suspects had made their way to Jaila from Negombo to purchase drugs under the pretext of obtaining medicine for the spouse of one of the men. 18 grams of heroin and a stash of narcotic pills were seized. In the meantime, Tamuttegama police arrested 5 suspects for possession of heroin in a raid conducted today. What's more, one of the arrested suspects is a member of Galnava Pradeshya Sabha. Following the protest conducted by people in Doluwa of Kandy stating that they struggle to get access to essential food items owing to the disorderly distribution of concessions provided by the government, police arrested one person involved in the protest. Accused of organizing the protest during the curfew, the suspect was remanded until the 16th of this month after being produced before the Kandy Magistrates Court. In the meantime, a bus of the Sri Lanka Transport Board transporting people who were trapped in Colombo with the imposition of curfew collided with an ambulance at the DS Sinanayaka Junction in Colombo. The ambulance had been in transit from Ratnapura to the Colombo National Hospital with 2 patients aboard. Our correspondent said that the 2 patients in the ambulance and 3 others sustained minor injuries and were admitted to the National Hospital. In the meantime, the police, army, air force and the navy conducted musical events in the past few days with the aim of improving the morale of residents living in apartment buildings which are in complete lockdown and are in isolation. The curfew, which was imposed by the government to curb the spread of COVID-19 within the country, continues to be in effect. The districts of Colombo, Gampaha, Kalutara, Putlam, Kandy and Jaffna continue to be designated as COVID-19 high-risk zones, and the curfew in those areas will remain in place until further notice. In addition, the curfew covering the police areas of Ratnapura and Palmadulla in the Ratnapura district, which are currently in isolation, will also continue until further notice. As for the rest of the country, the curfew will be lifted at 6 am on Tuesday the 14th and will be reimposed at 4 pm on the same day. With liquor stores closed and all manner of liquor sales banned in the country, certain posts continue to circulate on social media on domestic liquor production methods. With this undermining the very goal the government attempted to achieve by banning sale of liquor, Head of Traffic Police DIG Ajit Rohana had this to say on the matter.
ඊයේ අන්තර්ජාලය හරහා විවිධාකාරයේ මත්පැන් නිෂ්පාදනය සම්බන්ධව නිරන්තරයෙන් පළවෙන බවට වාර්තා වෙනවා. යම් කෙනෙක් මත්පැන් දුම්වැටි පානය කිරීම ඒ වගේ මේවා නිෂ්පාදනය කිරීම පිළිබඳව ප්‍රචාරණයක් ලබා දෙනවා නම් කුමන මාධ්‍යයක් කරා හෝ එය නීතිය ඉදිරියේ වරදක් වෙනවා. අවුරුදු දෙකක බරපතල වැඩ ඇතිව සිරදඬුවමකට ලක් කිරීමේ හැකියාවක් තියෙනවා.
We will see you again after this break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now, the United States has committed $1.3 million to help protect healthcare workers and slow the spread of COVID-19 with infection prevention and control support in Sri Lanka. A communique by the US Embassy in Colombo said that the funding will provide Sri Lanka support to activate case finding and event-based surveillance, technical experts for response and preparedness, infection prevention and control, risk communication and more. US Ambassador to Sri Lanka, Lena B. Teplitz, was also quoted saying that through even the most difficult times, Americans and Sri Lankans support one another as partners and friends, adding that this donation reflects our enduring relationship, resilient even in the face of this global pandemic. Now, the communique goes on to say that the US will also help prepare Sri Lankan laboratory systems for large-scale COVID-19 testing, adding that the United States is coordinating with the government of Sri Lanka and other stakeholders to identify additional priority areas for assistance. In the meantime, the British High Commission in Sri Lanka today once more urged British visitors to the island to return home now. Now, taking to Twitter, it said that Sri Lankan Airlines have informed the High Commission that the carrier will operate flight UL 503 from Colombo to London on the 11th and 18th of April. The message said that the High Commission does not expect Sri Lankan to operate further flights until at least the 21st of April. Therefore, it advised British visitors in Sri Lanka to return home right away. In the meantime, releasing a media communique, British High Commissioner Sarah Hulton said, quote, "Serious outbreaks of coronavirus are placing significant strain on health services globally, and in the event of serious outbreak in Sri Lanka, consular services and flights out of the country could be seriously affected. We cannot guarantee what flight options might be available if people choose to leave at a later date," unquote. Now, with all schools in the country on holiday owing to the prevailing virus pandemic, a school in Nuwara has set an example by conducting classes to students using modern technology. AdaDerana was informed of a school which has successfully implemented an effective program for students to study and cover their syllabus via the social media platform WhatsApp.
Our Ladies Upper School in Nuwara is successfully implementing a program enabling students to fulfill their daily dose of schooling from home at a time when schools have been shut due to the coronavirus pandemic. The program is being carried out via the social media platform WhatsApp, connecting teachers and 687 students.
සෑම සතියකම ඉරිදා දිනේදී දරුවන්ට පැවරුම් යැවීමක් සිද්ධ කරනවා. විශේෂයෙන්ම 6 ශ්‍රේණියේ සිට 9 ශ්‍රේණිය දක්වා සිසුන් දිනකට පැය 5ක් 10 11 ශ්‍රේණිවල සිසුන් දිනකට පැය 8ක් අධ්‍යයන කටයුතු වල නිරත වෙන්න ඕනේ. සෑම දිනකම අධ්‍යයන කටයුතු සිදු කරලා අදාළ පැය ගණන සහිතව දෙමාපියන් අත්සන් කරලා තිකුරාදා දිනේදී අප වෙත වාර්තාවක් යොමු කරන්න ඕනේ දුරකථනය හරහාම. පසුව අපි සෑම සතියකටම අදාළ වෙන්න වාර්තාවක් සකස් කරනවා දරුවන්ගේ ඒ දින වැඩ කරන ලද පැය ගණන සහ ඒ වගේ තත්ත්වයන් පිළිබඳව.
Therefore, the structure of the program requires students to engage in studies under the supervision of their parents. The vice principal of the school points out that this method has enabled the school to cover most of the syllabus for the second term.
Christians world over marked Good Friday in isolation today, commemorating and reflecting on the suffering and crucifixion of Jesus Christ. Here in Sri Lanka, Archbishop of Colombo, His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit, led the Good Friday service, with his flock joining him from their living rooms.
Almost 2,000 years ago, Jesus Christ gave his life for the redemption of humankind. For Christians world over, Good Friday is a day for reflection on how to overcome sin through repentance and humility. It is a climactic point following a period of 40 days of preparation, prayer, austerity and repentance. Christians observe Good Friday by attending Holy Mass at church, reliving the Christ's suffering through readings of the Bible, passion plays or simple prayer, and pledge themselves to abstain from sin. Due to the current ordeal faced by the country along with the rest of the world, Archbishop of Colombo, His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit, requested to observe religious rituals from home in order to minimize social association. Accordingly, the usual Good Friday Masses were not conducted at churches across the country. However, steps were taken to televise the Mass for the faithful, presided over by the Cardinal. Good Friday Masses world over were marred by the global pandemic as people abstained from gathering and engaging in services. Rome's ancient Colosseum stands quiet and alone under lockdown. Normally, tens of thousands of people would attend Good Friday commemoration, with Pope Francis leading Roman Catholics for the traditional Via Crucis, also known as the Way of the Cross, around the Roman amphitheatre. The traditional candlelight Good Friday procession will be replaced by a mini version, with Pope Francis presiding over the event in the small atrium of St. Peter's Basilica at the Vatican. Pope Francis on Monday established an emergency fund at the Pontifical Mission Societies, and the funds are destined to aid those who are being tragically impacted by the spread of COVID-19. The Pope also opened the fund by making the maiden contribution of $750,000. Good Friday is not merely a day of mourning, as it is also commemorated in anticipation of Easter Sunday, when Christians celebrate the resurrection of Jesus Christ.
Today is the 18th consecutive day that AdaDerana worked off its program to provide relief to the people going through hardships during the countrywide lockdown. Now, with the aim of strengthening this effort further, Director of the Buddhist Cultural Centre, Venerable Kirima Vimalajoti Thera, made a donation via a cheque to Chairman of the Derana Media Network, Dilip Jayavira, today. Dialogue Relief Services also join hands with us in this humanitarian effort. In addition, LOLC2 joined with AdaDerana to provide medical equipment needed by members of staff at leading hospitals where COVID-19 patients are being treated. Accordingly, medical equipment was handed over to the National Hospital in Colombo today. This program with LOLC will be conducted further, covering other hospitals which also treat COVID-19 patients. If you too are also willing to contribute to this humanitarian effort, you can call us on 077 070 1010 or 077 2466 488. Now, the term of the Presidential Commission of Inquiry appointed to investigate the alleged malpractices which had occurred when selling assets of ETI Holdings has been extended by 6 months. Accordingly, the term of the Commission, which was set to come to an end on the 9th of April, has been extended until the 9th of October 2020. The Presidential Commission to probe malpractices of the ETI was appointed on the 9th of January this year for a period of 3 months. The tri-member commission is chaired by retired Supreme Court Justice K.T. Chitrasiri. We will come back after this short break. Bear with us. Welcome back. This is First at 9. Now, the government and the central bank have introduced further measures to preserve the foreign currency reserve position of Sri Lanka. As a result, several measures are imposed for a period of 3 months on outward remittances on capital transactions. In a communique, the central bank says that with the view of preserving the foreign currency reserve position of the country, minimizing the existing pressure on the exchange rate and considering the possible negative impact to the Sri Lankan economy due to the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic, the Minister of Finance, Economic and Policy Developments, with the recommendation of the Monetary Board of the Central Bank and the approval of the Cabinet, has issued an order imposing several measures on outward remittances on capital transactions for a period of 3 months. Accordingly, first is that the general permission granted to make outward remittances for investments overseas through the outward investment accounts by persons resident in Sri Lanka is suspended. This, however, excludes investments to be financed out of a foreign currency loan obtained by the investor from a person resident outside Sri Lanka under the provisions of the Foreign Exchange Act, or investments to be made to fulfill the regulatory requirement in that country. Secondly, the outward remittances through business foreign currency accounts or personal foreign currency accounts held by persons in or resident in Sri Lanka, other than for the remittances on current transactions, are also suspended. Thirdly, the repatriation of funds under the migration allowance through capital transactions or rupee accounts by the immigrants who have already claimed migration allowance too has been suspended. Fourthly, the government and the central bank have also decided to limit the eligible migration allowance for the immigrants who are claiming the migration allowance for the first time up to a maximum of $30,000. As the fifth measure, it has been decided to limit the authority of the Monetary Board of the Central Bank to grant special permission for investments on case-by-case basis, which exceeds the limits specified in the general permission, only to those satisfying the criteria mentioned in 1A and 1B. The CBSL communique says that these restrictions are only applicable to the identified capital transactions and do not impose any restrictions on already permitted current transactions. Now, Japanese shares settled higher today, with bank stocks leading the gains on a $2.3 trillion program by US Federal Reserve to support local governments and businesses, but trading was lackluster due to the Easter holidays overseas. The benchmark Nikkei average reversed early losses to close up 0.8% at 19,498.50, its best finish since the 25th of March, tracking overnight gains on Wall Street. The Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 1.2%, the S&P 500 gained 1.5%, and the Nasdaq Composite added 0.8% yesterday. For the week, the Nikkei was up 9.4%, its second biggest gain since December 2009. In the meantime, South Korean shares rose today as market sentiment was lifted by the US Federal Reserve's fresh stimulus measures overnight that eased concerns over a liquidity crunch. The Seoul stock market's main Kospi closed up 24.49 points to 1,860.70. And that's it from all of us here at First at 9. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.